Just the entrepreneurs that are coming up on success stories.
And I'd like to thank everybody for coming. We're going to put the panel up here on the front. You're welcome to hang out in the back and visit or grab a photo as we go. But for those of you who want to hang out, go ahead and jump in. We've got Dr. Jones from the Scientific Computing Initiative here. He's also the manufacturing designee from the Obama administration. I'll let him give a better background on where he's been. Where are my other panelists? John? Okay. Ellen? Okay. Who else have we? Who else we got on the manufacturing side that's interested? Yes, one up. The question is if you manufacture stuff. And if you want to hang out at the front and answer questions about manufacturing stuff, we'll put you up towards the front. Well, you can ask questions from anywhere. I'm going to look in the back since I don't manufacture stuff. I don't.
Yeah. And about the market manufacturing where?
Yeah.
Yes, so jump on. That's the two. That's the two. Yeah. Okay. We just know that about it's a conversation. Yeah. So can you tell me you work in better than that? Yeah, accidentally. Really? Yeah. Really? So tell me that. We need to see about that. Okay. All right. Really not. Yeah, so I'm working with the Department of Chocolate, and that's a large part of that military initiative. So that's what I do. Massive machine carbon deposit. Is that what you're Oh, Genesis, yeah. So when they were recruited by GoEd, I was part of that team. Yeah, that was a great deal. Yeah, no, it's really awesome. Our CEO loved that. Well, it's awesome to have connections, right? We didn't have that piece of the supply chain at all.
Yeah. So, Dr. Jones, if you don't mind looking this way, I've got something behind you looking towards you. I'm just looking for some background information on how you got into manufacturing.
Well, okay, yeah, so manufacturing, I guess I did have a background in manufacturing. So I owned helped run a company years ago, manufacturing laser optics. But that was in New Mexico. So in Utah, how I got into manufacturing was I helped run the clusters program at the governor's office of economic development during the early years of the Huntsman administration. And one of the clusters we started focusing on was the carbon composites, carbon fiber cluster. And that's a manufacturing play. And what I learned during that time in GoEd was that Utah is a manufacturing state, right? So that is fundamentally what we do. That's what the economy is about, manufacturing. We have a lot of IT, we have a lot of life sciences, but if you really dig down where most of our jobs sit, where the economy is really robust and drives the state, we make things here in Utah. And even grow some things, but mostly we make things. So I got introduced to the state's manufacturing area that way. It's a fascinating state manufacturing-wise. And is that a good enough introduction?
Give us 30 seconds on this guy and about your designation from.
Okay, so I helped run a group at the University of Utah called the Scientific Computing and Imaging Institute. We're a 200-person research group. 100 of us are graduate students. A few of us are faculty, and most of us are staff. And we do computer science, bioengineering-based studies, a lot of MRI analysis, a lot of seismic imaging for oil and gas, stuff like that. When we started the cluster program in 2000, this platform was economic development. We did it based on Porter's cluster model. I left that in 2007 when we just finished some of the early cluster work. And then just a few years ago, the then Secretary of Commerce flew into Utah to announce this investing in manufacturing communities partnerships the Department of Commerce was supporting. There's 24 of these IMCPs, and what you do is you apply to the IMCP, the Department of Commerce, to be designated an IMCP. There's 24 across the country. The Secretary of Commerce heard about our deposits work, asked us to apply. We became an IMCP designee, which carries a lot of aspects of advanced competition and funding from NSF and Department of Commerce and Department of Defense and such. So it really heightens your competition with granting agencies to help build that cluster and sustain that cluster. So we're an IMCP. Utah is one of 24, which is really remarkable. And I lead that IMCP just by the fact I was in the wrong meeting when the Department of Commerce Secretary was there. And you know, that volunteer thing where everybody's in a line and they say, whoever wants to write this designation application, step forward. And I just stood there and everybody stepped back. That's my involvement in manufacturing. So it's not a very...
Can you explain what you mean by cluster?
Cluster, okay. So there's an economic development theory based on the fact that if you align a lot of the subsegments of the economy, the ecosystem, that you can have a higher performance group than if you didn't align. The example is like, let's say that APK comes into town and builds like 35 wingspan out of our and to get their machine parts to build that wing or to machine that wing, they have to go to Oklahoma. And we would say, hey, that's not very well aligned supply chain. So we would go recruit Janicki and say, hey, you phenomenal work. As you come in our region, you can accelerate your business by being here, and we'll actually defer some of your taxes to you in here and strengthen our supply chain. So we'll add enough jobs to defer taxes will in the end get positive returns. So we align that supply chain, and that's government coming in. You hear it all the time, we're government, we're here to help. In this case, government, I think, help. And you build a supply chain, and then you say, okay, Janicki, and this is where we're heading in the future years. Janicki, what problems do you have in accomplishing your mission? And let's say they say something like our carbide tips when we do fiber de-sharpening, dull, right? Yeah. I don't think that's actually a problem, but let's say it is a problem. We would say, wow, we've got a carbide researcher at you. Let's put him on that project with me, or her on that project with you, and see if we can get some regional research going to really strengthen your product. So now you've got the academic component feeding into the manufacturing. And then you say, hey, you know, Banker Fred over here, what are you investing in? And he says, yeah, we buy a lot of houses and do a lot of mortgages. He said, you know, Janicki has this one product line they're making. It is a robust product line, but they would like to replace, if there's something else, they'd like to use that shop floor space with the higher end product. And they are willing to help invest in a company to be a supplier of what's internal, an external supplier. So bank of mortgage, why don't you finance this new company to help Janicki grow without using solely its capital? So let's use Janicki's collateral and debt and some money, and now the banking is aligned with that customer, right? So it's really aligning those components like that.
The clusters are primarily geo-based then?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, really aligning the region to what the region does well. And that's the idea. Utah does manufacturing well, does carbon composite manufacturing extremely well. It's got one of the highest densities of carbon fiber manufacturing people in the world. We're in the top 10% of density of both establishments and people working in this area in Utah, in the world. So it's an interesting thing. But that's my story. My story is relatively unimportant relative to this panel. So let's just get quick introductions. Mike, go ahead and start with that.
Yeah, my name is Mike Collier. I basically manufacture lithium battery packs for anything from golf carts, electric cars, and we actually did a blend ones.
My name is Hugh. We have a company called Kendall and Hyde, and Hyde and Kendall and Hyde, and we do leather partners, so boots and bags and belts and that kind of stuff.
They throw those boots up. Those are pretty cool. I like the.
It's a recycled tire.
Is that kind of a banker boot you guys don't?
This is a Doughboy from 1930.
Awesome.
I'm David Tanner, currently also a leather soft goods manufacturing business. Previously, I was at a company that sheet metal and injection molding manufacturing as well. So, kind of a wide variety of experience there.
For those of us that are novices, what's the difference between soft goods and hard goods?
Leather soft versus hard.
Yeah, so like the hard boot versus the leather ball. I don't know if there's any.
You guys have debates when you make a product.
Yeah, I want to reclassify them into a cluster of hard and soft goods, but with a date. So my name is Eric Bowd. I do manufacturing for a company called Spark Innovation down in Utah Valley for anything and everything going into retail stores. So,
Like on the good side or on the,
yeah, so I mean,
you give a product example.
anything from, we do a lot of hardware products, things like repair products, some tapes, things that go into Home Depot, Lowe's, but also do some electronics that go to Walmart, and I think we've got some PCB and things like that. So I just manage all the manufacturing.
My name is John Finley. I kind of got into manufacturing a little while ago, specifically into trying to manufacture 3D printer filament, and with a company here locally that's kind of going under now. I was kind of there trying to keep this place afloat for quite a while, and they are currently in dire straits right now. I'm not involved with it anymore, and I think I learned a lot seeing that ship go down.
My name is Evan Coda. I'm the now the operations manager for our Utah plant of Janicki Industries. We're an aerospace, defense, and transport manufacturing company. So we're kind of at the extreme far end of manufacturing, where one of my parts that I process in an 8-hour period will be a $250,000 part. So you don't just throw it away if something happens to it, and nothing can happen to it. And so we manufacture here in Utah stuff, composite wing skins for the Joint Strike Fighter. We also are doing some spacecraft parts for Boeing, and we're also manufacturing some parts for some commercial aircraft as well. So very high-end, very expensive, and as I say, the extreme end manufacturing.
Yeah, if you ever get a chance to go to Janicki and see the CNCs, the big platform machines running, it's like a circus ride. They're phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, and we're a special company because instead of going out and buying a machine, a big huge machine, we'll build it ourselves. You know, if I need a water filter for this big machine, we'll go and design and build it ourselves. Our CEO is an engineer, that's what we do. We build everything ourselves, we design all ourselves, and it's some of the best equipment in the world.
Very cool. So, you know, so we're talking, I'm going to say we're talking a lot to entrepreneurs, is that right? So some companies will be in prototype mode, MVP, however you want to state that, and thinking about how to grow into a manufacturing company, or will need manufacturing. So what I'll try to get these guys to do is hit on some of the critical pieces for starting a manufacturing firm, or for things you have to think about that will really catch you in manufacturing space if you don't think about them early on. So you know, one of the things I know that I've screwed up in my past many times is the robustness of my supply chain. Right, so you think I'm making a part, I have a few suppliers that I trust, and so I'm going to ask you guys to, we'll just start around. Think of a great supply chain nightmare horror story that you learned from and changed your business because of. And if you don't have one, you should listen, because it's coming. Mike, go ahead.
A good example of this, so we early on thought we just exclusively partner with one Chinese battery manufacturer, but we get great rates of time, build on their volume, and they had a hiccup in one of their terminals. They couldn't get enough copper at the time to make it, and they were 6 months out delivering our shipment of batteries, and it almost put us under. The money was terrible. It was really quick, but we partnered with like 3 or 4 really quality ones, even though we found out later that a lot of them buy and sell from the same sources for their raw components, that we're able to play on stock and make sure that we have the right components at the right time. So we have to constantly be aware of what their bottlenecks are in terms of resources to make their end components and to follow that so we know where we're going to have our goods in.
It's a really great point to bring up. So to know you have multiple sources at each point in your supply chain is important, but it's also important. We learned this in the computer industry not too long ago with memory, right? We had a bunch of the computer companies had different vendors for memory, but all the raw material was coming from the same point sources. So when that raw material is spaced out, it didn't matter how many vendors you had in that space, you still couldn't build a computer. So not just having multiple vendors, but having multiple vendors and knowing where their inventory levels are is really critical when you think of your supply chain. Go ahead.
So we've made every mistake we can make. We were designers and marketers by trade, and we sort of fell into a business that just continues to grow very, very rapidly. And our whole point is that we're very high quality. And I don't know, a lot of people don't know much about leather, but the kind of leather we use takes 2 to 4 months to actually prepare. And we really didn't have a handle on that. And you get these samples, you have to be certain that you're there when they're actually manufacturing the product. So we got these samples. The samples were great. The manufacturing was awesome. It was exactly what we wanted. 6 weeks later, we find out that every product was not at all what we thought, and we ended up having to replace like $100,000 worth of product and make people wait another 6 months before the leather was ready to go. Or 4, I think in that case it was 4 months. So my advice is, like, don't leave it to others to control your fate. You have, even if we're a small company. I have a couple questions for you on that, but we're maybe a $2 million company now, and we should be making really good money, but because of problems like this, we're barely surviving because we didn't get it. We thought, oh, we'll design a cool product, we'll give it to a company, they make us samples, and when they come off the line, they're not what they gave us. And so you have to babysit the entire process. And for us, it's just leather, hardware, and thread, but we have to babysit every part of that process because, we use special thread that's manufactured for sailboats, and you order that, you think that's what you're getting, but it doesn't work that way. You have to really understand.
You have the little QC, QA points in for your incoming product and such.
Right.
Yeah, so I want to talk more about my previous experience going to leather here, but I was working on a project. It was one of our first injection molding projects, and one of the critical steps that we kind of sketched when we were making that product was draft analysis and just reviewing the product before it actually went to injection molding. So we cut $30,000 to $40,000 worth of molds, and I'm there at the machine watching parts that are supposed to be coming out of the machine, but everything's just sticking in there, and the machine's just ripping the parts in half. One side's getting stuck with, the A side, the parts are just shredding, So we learned very quickly, that it's really important, spend the time, spend the money to make sure the files are right. We gave it user just check, make sure you have everything in place before you go spending money on molds. Especially because that sort of project was probably a month or 2 behind. So you got customers sweating on that side, operations spending on the other side. So I would say it's really important to just make sure you know all that.
So they've been on a few I've seen as problems too, but something that's a little bit different, I guess, is for one of the parts that we have, we've got some paratanium materials, and it's really, really hard and you can fix anything and everything you can wrap. And we originally had one factory that made our product, and it was okay, but we found out that we couldn't get it watertight, so we actually had to switch factories and kind of re-engineered the thing. We did it so that it was, you'd actually be able to use it to waterproof a pipe. And later on, we found out that that first factory has started to manufacture that same thing and sell it on their own. And that was something that, I mean, obviously working with China in that aspect, sometimes you run into issues like that that you don't really expect or don't think about. But something that we've had to make sure we focus on is not only like our supply chain in that aspect, but understanding our place in other people's supply chain. Because we've got that factory going out and trying to pitch essentially the same product to our customers, convince them to buy theirs instead of ours. And understanding where we fit into their distribution and making sure that we have the relationships that we need with them has been really key in kind of overcoming that obstacle.
Yes, it's another really good point on understanding your supply chain, because you'll see IP leak not just to your provider, but you'll see IP leak through multiple steps on your supply chain. So if you have a proprietary, protecting that proprietariness is really difficult. If you have patents and such, protecting those patents in China is really difficult. And so, yeah, I would even venture to say impossible at times. So knowing your partners and your partner's partners is actually a critical piece.
So a lot of you guys have talked about external supply chain issues. We had kind of internal supply chain issues where we would be starting to make something and we would find out essentially we didn't have good inventory control of our own precursor parts. So we would be assembling something and find out we did not have a part that we needed to move the thing to the next stage, and then we'd have to order it, go find a supplier, order a batch, so that we could continue, for 2 weeks out, production stop for quite a while, get the part, start to go on the next stage and realize there's another part that we're missing as we're trying to build these things. That happened several times. And,
that's really a good point. So your kind of internal supply chain, I've seen issues where, so the specs for external supply chain obviously very important, so that you get the right specs from your outside vendor. Your inside vendors, if you think of them as inside vendors, tend to be loose on their specs definition. And all of a sudden you see QC wars, QA wars between your departments. And you see cost transfers coming and QA rejecting all the parts. So your internal supply chain can go as awry and really demoralize parts of your company when you start handling those really casually, right? Especially the spec requirements. So that's a great, the internal supply chain, or the internal transfers of product is really critical piece of manufacturing.
So one of the most important lessons I learned early in my career in manufacturing was if it's custom or low production quantities, don't talk to salesmen. Because they will, as you heard your leather, they will sell you the world, and then when as soon as it goes to production, you don't get paid for what you've seen. So I don't even let the sales guys in my building. Hopefully I do get the sales guys. But they don't even come in my building anymore, I can't trust them. So when it comes to cutters and art, things that we manufacture, they're very specialized and very critical to our production operations. And what I found is, I go to the big cutting companies, they don't deliver me good quality, they don't deliver me on time, they don't deliver me enough. Which sounds weird for a big company, right? You think a big company will take care of you, they'll have resources to do everything. The small guys like us, they don't care about it. They will service their big giant vendors, like Boeing and all these big guys. They don't care about the small guys. So I found the best thing is don't talk to the sales guys, and I go find small companies between 300 to 100 people in that company that can do these specialized products. Because I can get and build relationships with their floor managers, and they'll let me know weeks ahead of time when something's going to come up. They know the day that something's going to happen. On the phone, they call me ahead of time, I can plan ahead and being short or something like that. But if you deal with big companies, they'll just short you and not tell you, and there's nothing you can do.
Somebody had mentioned knowing where you sit and where you're selling. So you're often a piece of the supply chain, even if you're supplying a consumer with goods, you fit in a certain realm. And Mike and I were chatting just before this, and so I'd like to kind of explore this idea. Small companies started by entrepreneurs are usually very innovative. in manufacturing, innovation is great. I'm not going to say that. If it's misused, and you make a product on the way to the customer comes up with a much better product that they don't want. And how do you control that innovative reason you became a company or entrepreneur anyway? How do you control innovation not impacting your customers' expectations?
So I want to talk to this just because, a lot of guys and entrepreneurs try to be really grassroots. It's not going to be high level manufacturing, wings for the Air Force. You might start out simpler than that. So for us, the way that we manage a lot of those things, we, start out really simple. We just create a document system with maybe Google Docs, and it's just like, if you need a change order, or if there's something that's not working to what the original spec was, we would write it up, we would document it, and say, okay, let's go back to the sales guy, let's go back to the customer, so to hit on that point, there's always a relationship somewhere. My relationship was with the sales guy, their relationships with the customer. So you have to just make sure everybody's on the same page, that you're all building the exact same thing. And if the specs change, get every single person in the supply chain to buy outline. If you don't do that, then you'll end up at a manufacturer doing something that will, either rub someone the wrong way or cost you guys much money.
It's back in the 80s, we devised this scheme we thought was really clever because we had common storage throughout the company, common IT storage for the first time. So we call it common document management. So all our design docs lived on a computer, and you only had one document. If you wanted to change that, you had to get everybody's file. And we thought it was phenomenal, clever, and then Google Docs told us it was actually pretty better. I know you have a lot of different products in your line. How do you keep from over innovating what you're delivering? If that's the right phrase, that might not be perfect.
Well, we have a intermediary partner that would work for telecom, and they would manage that direct relationship. And they had a component of that they just fell in love with, and they kept tweaking it. And so we would supply them all the battery parts, and this one electronic component kept changing every time we get it. And eventually the telecom group just stopped buying. They said, we can't afford these incremental changes. We don't know how to tell our people how to work with the newest change. We need to write something that's going to go into a big giant QA system or procurement system that people can reference and use and get maybe a year or two experience in. And we're just going to stop buying from you. I know this sounds great. No, but we're going to wait a year or two and come back and see what we got. And so we'll look and see where we can shine on customer service. We can shine on saving them at pennies, but you can't change the product unless you do big steps. Kind of like what Apple does. You'll wait like every 18 months to come out with something you can do every 2 years.
You have to know your customer, I would say. These big, commodity aerospace companies, some of the projects we work on, I use stuff from the 50s because they don't want to change it, they know it works. But when you look at consumer stuff, there's Rev 2 and there's Rev 3 and there's a new one. But at some point, you got to stop and build them. You can't just keep going.
Make some money on it.
You got to
So
stop.
I think I have some relevance, maybe for the people who are trying to create products. My business partner Ken, who designs all our stuff, he never stops designing, never. And so we launched all of our products on Kickstarter first. And what we did on these particular boots, you would think, oh, it's a boot. There's no design that goes into it, but he kept tweaking this and that, and he wanted a tire on the bottom. He wanted, this kind of stitching. Should it be, 8 inches high or 9 inches high? And what's really fun when you're doing this kind of thing, especially if you're launching on a crowdfunding platform, which I think a lot of you probably would, is I finally said, just shut the F up, dude, and let's launch. And then all these questions that we weren't observant on, we actually took it to the crowd, and the crowd said, no, I want a cap toe. And we did SurveyMonkey surveys, and and we decided what colors we want. We knew that 11% of the people wanted black, and 67% wanted whiskey. And so during that entire 30 days where we were selling the boots,
we had the audience participate, the customer, the end user customer, in very specific things. We weren't like, hey, what do you want in the booth? We were like, do you want this style or this style? Do you want this color or this color? Do you want the eyelets to go the whole way up or one down? You know, like we had very specific things that we asked them to do, and because it wasn't a hugely already manufactured product, it was really kind of cool, and people really gravitated to us as a brand because of that, because we listened to the consumer. We had extensive conversations with them on that, and it was really fun for us.
And I think internally you've hit on something. So if any of you have engineers that you're working with, or you're the engineers, once you launch a product, as you've heard, that product stays a little stagnant once it gets to market, and the market has an expectation. But you've got to figure out a way to feed that engineer innovator. It's a different engineer that babysits a product than one that creates a product. So if you're going to keep the same engineering staff, how do you feed that engineering staff and let them innovate while your product is taking a 2-year run or 50-year run, right? And that's an important thing in management, is to figure out how to keep the employees innovating but not changing the product from the market.
It's a really good point. We failed to do that. That was one of the things that was very, very difficult to keep going. We had so the 3D printers were designed, and we built them, and we've noticed that there would be certain things that would maybe a problem, like a belt might be rubbing someplace. We have to change the design after starting production. But we were in a situation where most of our major parts of the machine, we were building ourselves, printing the parts ourselves, cutting them on the margin ourselves, so we could make that change and have new parts the next day. That ability to have new parts next day for the new design ended up being a real problem, because we couldn't start mass producing these things, because we'd make a whole bunch of parts, we'd find out, that there was a problem, we'd have to remake all the parts.
I think a great story. So Thor Heyerdahl was an explorer. I don't think he's alive anymore, but he sailed a balsa wood raft with the crew to show some kind of migration. I read this book when I was like 14, so I'll get most of the details wrong. But as they built this balsa wood raft out of the original materials, they decided the rope wasn't strong enough. The original materials, they were really worried about the rope lasting for the whole voyage, so they were going to replace it with cable. In the end, they couldn't get enough cable for the build, and they went ahead with the old rope, thinking that would be a failure point. So they were designing on the fly, moving away from the specs, the original specs. And what they found was that as the wood got wet and the rope got tighter, it bored into the wood and actually started cleaving the raft apart. And if they'd have used cable, they'd have ended up with only parts of a raft by midway through the voyage. So the rope was actually a critical piece of the design. So as you do start changing on the fly, you have to realize in a manufacturing environment, you're experimenting with your product, right? You're now a scientist. And science doesn't always work out the way you think it should. And that's a really good point. If you do it on an F-35 wind scan, the experiment's really dangerous.
Yeah, that's one thing we've gotten very good at. We have great engineers who innovate and move us forward, but you have to find a way to fail cheaply. I can't fail on a wing scan. We find ways to fail cheaply and test things cheaply. They can innovate, come up with something new, you can run it through simulation and find out, it actually breaks 10 steps down the line. It takes some time here, but it broke down there. And so if we just introduce these changes in the process, it would hurt us down the line. The same thing with the draft lock. How can you figure that out early in the process instead of getting all the way down to your tools and all of a sudden you get a problem?
Very good. So anybody on the panel think of any other really big gotchas in developing a manufacturing business? Yeah.
I'll throw out something. I'm right now working on kind of tweaking and developing a process to get an idea all the way to mass production as quickly as possible. And I think one thing that has been helpful is just understanding that you have to tell your customers about the product and ask them what they want. Because you can tell them in theory, right when you're starting out, and say, is this something you can buy? And you've got everybody saying no, I really would have used that. Or on the other hand, if you have everybody saying, yeah, that's interesting, then you've got kind of the motivation and the justification to start developing that. And then all along the way, just keeping that same customer in mind and keeping them informed of what you have done, checking in with them and saying, is this what you expected? Is this what you wanted? How can we make it better? Their opinion, their expectations can change. But that way, the entire way along, you have confirmation that somebody's going to be behind you at the end of the day, so you can keep justifying that extra cost that goes in, and then you find your problems early on. And I know that a lot of people are worried about telling people their ideas because they think they'll get stolen, or that somebody else is going to come out and do the same thing. But honestly, if you think about it, like, there's very few people that can actually execute on your idea. There's probably a couple of people in the world that can do it, and most of them are probably in places like they would come to meetings and settings like this, and getting to know everybody around here. Most of those people are pretty honest. Like, they would just encourage you to run yourself. So there really is like almost zero risk of anybody stealing your idea. And obviously, you want to be smart about it. You're not going to take some new phone design and go pitch it to Apple and say, hey, what do you think about this? Because they couldn't knock you out for the best. But getting feedback from your target market early on in the process and then all the way through the process gives you that confidence to just keep going and knowing that at the end of the day, when you actually have mass produced something, it's not a question of who's going to buy it. It's now here it is.
So I think, since this is not entrepreneurial, and I'm sure everybody's seen the different movements out there, the Lean Canvas development, all that kind of stuff. So it's important. It's really easy. It's really easy as a manufacturer to build a relatively successful product, put your head down, and just make a ton. But that customer feedback all the time, you're always wondering what the customer thinks about their life, where their pain points exist, and where their pain points exist around your product. We built a laser that was really, really high performance, very high power, and we thought we'd skin the cat by then, right? Or whatever the phrase would be, whatever the formal phrase. But we had it cooked, and I was at a trade show once, and somebody said, we love your laser for the whole 3 hours we can run it. I was like, really, we've never run one of our lasers for 3 hours. We don't manufacture anything with our lasers. We just build them and sell them. And the customer says, yeah, it's really high power, works really well. It heats up after 3 hours, and it goes off center, and we have to shut it down for a couple hours. And it's like, wow, well, I should have heard that, 100 lasers back, because I was talking to customers. But it took a long time. And that's a niche somebody could come in and fill underneath me without me even realizing I had a deficit in my product. Go ahead.
So I want to touch on that just a little bit. So Harvard Business School came out with a really great case study on the Toyota production system. And they talk about a disparity instance where they have the hand in the cord. If something goes wrong in manufacturing, on the line, they would pull a cord. They had seriously like 30 to 90 seconds to solve the problem without stopping the whole production line. And if they couldn't, then they had to shut the whole thing down. So it's really important if you encounter errors. You were finding out post-haste, but if you encounter errors during production, get to the root of it and solve it, because you'll spend all this time and money going down the line, and then you'll come back and say, we have to manufacture all this stuff, and just waste tons of money, tons of time, and it's even worse if it makes it all the way out to the customer. So, on that point, customers will be as critical as anyone out there. So if there's some minor little thing that could go wrong with your product, that will definitely surface with the customers, and it'll probably be done publicly. So
it's really horrible to hear. It's so hard to ask customers about your product. It really is, because I'm thin-skinned, as anybody can be. And so asking my customers if they actually like what they're using was not my favorite part of the job. So I really tried to avoid that. But so I had to hire people that would do that for me, right? So I recognized that as a weakness. I didn't want customer feedback, but I could take it if my company had customer feedback. And so I would avoid those conversations, even talking to my customers. Buy an extra beer if they just shut up. So if you can't take that information about your product, get someone in your group that can. So, yeah, who's that? Go ahead.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I hope it would be of interest. So I think a lot of us are creators and makers, and a lot of these points are really for people who are successful and already doing it. I'm just curious, since you have both in the academic group and the government groups, what resources are available for someone who says, I have an idea? What resources are available for someone like Tanner, what's your first name? David and I, where we're actually growing companies, but we're not the 30 million or 50 or $100 million company. Are there resources for companies and makers who are just starting out, or do you have to be a certain size before we create?
No, I would say, and this is totally off script, so if any of my supervisors are listening, I won't have a job in a couple of weeks. But 10 years ago, there were almost no resources, right? Because everybody expected the government or the universities to be able to do studies and tell them what the right way to manufacture and such is. And what the entrepreneurial community has figured out, I would say the last 5 years with these lean canvas, the accelerators, the foundry, is that your peer group is a much better resource than almost anything anybody can stand up. Right? So this, if I were manufacturing and I were starting a manufacturing company, how to grow, I would start here. I would jump in with an accelerator. I would do a lean canvas to make sure that I was asking. So you were asking some questions about your customers. And I think you're a great example because you said, hey, make a bottle and ask the customer, this is the bottle he or she wants to buy. And we've learned over the years that that's kind of not the right way to approach the market. It's a better way to get the information about your product, because that kind of leads them into that, is to say, hey, I notice you drink beer. One of the biggest problems with drinking beer, and I would say, when they pour it in my hand, I can't hold it. And you would go, would a bottle save solve that for you? And I say, damn, that's a beautiful idea, right? So your peers and these accelerators and such are learning ways to interface with the market, like your story on crowdsourcing. So this is really the group that can help you more than anything with the experience, what they've seen work, what they've seen not work. And the government programs, because I ran one of them, are great for connecting you to the peer group. And that's what we've learned in government. Well, maybe we have. That's what I learned in government, is that my role as government to help really is to connect the people to their peer groups, to connect Janeke, and they're a huge company, right, relative to startups. Right? But they need to meet the right people at Lockheed to do the right business. And when I call Lockheed and say, hey, I'm from the governor's office, can I meet all the Lockheed people? Lockheed always says, yeah. Right? When Janeke says, hey, I'm selling something, can I meet the right Lockheed people? Lockheed says, no. And so I can help there. I can help make the connection. I can help. So government, if they're making connections with your peer group and with your customers, and helping you with that, they're doing a great job. University, same thing. TBC for tech venture stuff. And if they're bringing these best practices in for how to learn what the customer wants and how to build a business, like interviewing your supply chain, Lean Canvas is the same helping method with supply chain. So those are the resources. I think they're.
You keep saying Lean Canvas. Maybe I'm the only one that doesn't know exactly what that means. Can you explain that?
Okay, yeah. So there's a bunch of different styles of this. Lean Canvas it's literally a canvas. And it says, okay, so the middle of the canvas has a section called value proposition. And then the right side of the canvas has your customer segment. And you're going to say, I believe that my customer segment needs really nice boots made of leather. And they have a problem that they don't have attractive boots that they really love. And I can solve that pain point with my value proposition. And then you're going to go to the customer and have that same bottle interview I just had. And your customers are going to say, my pain point is I can't get the right boot that I just love. And you're going to say, hey, interact with us on this. And you're going to fill out this whole canvas through that open-ended interviewing question. That's Lean Canvas. There's other methodologies like Foundry and such. But I'm a little off topic on that.
No, it's fine. We're kind of methodology agnostic. How many people in the room use Lean Canvas? How many people in the room use a methodology to do something different? What's the other preferred?
So I use a peer reviews, I use Lean Canvas, I use management reports, I use it all. It's like
How many
everything has value, so I pull it together.
Yeah.
Well, this is your resource, because as a government guy or a university guy, I can tell you all about the theoretical foundation of what lean canvas buys you. But someone who's built their company doing a lean canvas or another methodology can tell you whether it worked or not. Right. Where it breaks down.
As a cohort model, we essentially say, hey, we know you have problems. We want to get you together with people that can solve your problems. But we're a little bit agnostic on which framework you want to use to be able to solve.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're already doing Kickstarter that was successful, you're already doing most of the lean canvas stuff. You would just fill it out like, oh, that's this, that, and just put it on camera.
You would be amazed at how many successful entrepreneurs I've met, and we've taken them through. So we've had some folks fly in from the Lean Canvas Creator Group and go through the Lean Canvas, and the entrepreneurs are like, damn, I wish I could do it. So I've done it all wrong, and I've been lucky, but it would be much more fun to be on purpose.
Yeah. Come out of these things with like something to do tomorrow. So tomorrow I can, research Lean Canvas and see what.
Yeah, if you come by my office at the university, I can give you the Lean Canvas books. I got a stack of them on my office. Yeah.
But for a lot of you guys out there, he's doing it a great way, using Kickstarter to get out there ahead of things. He's not building 700 booths because it's a lot. That's one mistake you can make when you start up a manufacturer or creating a company is design yourself to death and then build a product that nobody wants. The best thing to do is build it cheaply, build a prototype, learn something, build another prototype, learn something, and then push something out there cheaply, and then go from there. Don't spend all your time and get a great deal on the second order, and then you're stuck.
Yeah, and I don't see this signal in this group. I mean, everybody. But one thing to as you grow your manufacturing business, one thing to watch out for is the early adopters are a false signal in general, right? So that false signal. Does anybody have an early adopter false signal in the story? That's great. Yeah, from the audience is great too, yeah.
Well, we had an initiative, and somebody came along and said, oh my gosh, we love that thing. Like, this is the best thing ever, and we have all this allocation budget for it. And we planned a strategy around the fact that we've gotten this early feedback. Well, then the person that owned that strategy got transferred to another division. And then the replacement had a completely different perspective. He said, we weren't working with you before, we were working with this other group, and so we don't want to do anything anymore. We thought, well, that's not a problem, because clearly everybody else is going to be, there's got to be some subset. We could have been lucky enough to just initially found the one person who was ideally suited for the thing that we want. And it turns out we really did find the one person who wanted our thing, and when we lost them, then we had to go back and redesign.
It's a great point. So on all these methodologies, Lean Canvas, blah, 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 like Lean Canvas says, for customer segment, do 100 interviews. And that seems like a really random number. And the reason it's 100 interviews is because, like, for me, I have like 8 friends. So 100 interviews takes me out of my friend zone. And that's really handy. And 20 interviews takes me out of the early adopter zone, right? And gets me a more in-depth customer archetype than just a quick. If I find early adopters and I sell to them, I have a 0.5% market, and so that's a really good warning to manufacturers. Don't ramp up your manufacturing line on the early adopter signal. Go ahead.
The other benefit is it's not a manufacturing benefit. It's then when you start doing analysis, like what is the cost of sale and what's the total lifetime value of the customer, those kind of analyses. When you're talking to people that know you and like you get a huge bias, but when you have to actually go out and find people that you don't know and don't have the connections to, then you get a much more realistic idea as to what it costs you to run a business.
Yeah, absolutely. And your friends, like your friends know that you do leather goods and you're very passionate about it.
I have fewer friends.
6 to 7. Yeah, that's a tough.
I'm very charismatic when you get to them.
Yeah, so don't interview people on your fourth beer. That's a good point. So let me open it up. Any questions on manufacturing or any wonderful manufacturing local tales? Yeah.
I'm just curious where you guys start when looking for manufacturers, right? Alibaba and things like that. I feel like you get to just a few people, There's definitely way more out there, but I can't.
So, depending on, if you want to go to China, I got a guy in China, like an expat that lives there, and he sources, like, we're doing a water bottle. We don't like to manufacture in China, but occasionally we have to. So if you want, I can send you down.
So a great place that, where I found my things is stuff like this. Hey, I want to build this thing this way. And then you get 10 people with 10 different ways to build that one thing, and they've all got contact for the way to do it. Yeah, I would not dive straight into China first.
Yeah, I would also ask, like, at what stage of
I
business
just
is
want,
it?
I'm a
Prioritizing
prioritizing.
or-
I want to try writing on something, just do a brand new play. That's super simple. But
Yeah, we started at Alibaba. The problem with Alibaba is there's a huge communication issue. So we found a guy, ex-LDS missionary, that's been there 25 years, however many years, speaks the language, has feet on the street, has grown a business, and, does a very good job for us. When we say, we need this, and you pay a percentage, but the percentage you pay, I think we pay 7%, but we save like 15% by having something there. So depending on what you want to manufacture, if you find someone who already has a contact in the country, it's way easier.
I'd also say that I would do as much as you can on the marketing and advertising front to get it out there and market test it before you even go down the route. I mean, make sure you have someone on the back end producing goods for you, but just get one.
I would disagree with that because we've lost so much. The thing, I agree what he's saying. I actually wrote an article on how to test your idea for $29. It's been pretty successful in the tech world. But the problem is, like, we launch a product, or we market a product, we say it's going to be $400. If you haven't done very careful research, you're kind of screwed because you're like, Jesus, this I thought the price would be $150, but it's really $185. So I'm not disagreeing that you can test a concept for very little money without knowing what's going on, but we've made huge pricing issue problems by not knowing that we are custom making this particular piece and it's 4 times what we thought it was going to be, and there's 4 of those on the back. Right now, our price goes up. So go ahead.
I think we actually do agree. Definitely do the homework, do the research, do as much as you can, have all your ducks in a row. But when it comes to the initial presentation, you don't need to source 400 of them to make that presentation. So make sure you just get one unit and then present it online. So just don't hold it.
And you'd be surprised in pricing. I mean, I had a business when I lived in Washington quite a few years ago. I made carpet chopsticks. And I was selling it for $30, and nobody would buy it. And so I just changed the price to $130, and they went like crazy.
I was going to say, I'd buy it 30, 130.
Funny, it was rather than the perception of something cheap and cool, it was a high-end carbon fiber chopstick.
I think everything in China. I love manufacturing. If you can understand what their needs are, if you tell them you want the cheapest price, they're going to give you the cheapest product, and they're going to think they're helping you be happy and successful. You're going to get crap, and you're going to wonder why they're shortchanging you. It's like a vicious cycle. But if you understand what their needs are, and every factor there's a slightly different motivation. And if you can find the one person in the company that gets who you are and what your needs are, be best friends with that person, and you will have a totally long-term relationship. Like a great deal. I can get so much better financing from the Chinese than I can from America. They pay for everything.
But I wasn't the sales guy.
Yeah, that wastes your time.
That's another question. Go ahead.
Sure. So, most of the panel are fairly young engineering types.
Thank you.
One problem that I ran into with working with these companies is, everybody here understands the importance of standard work and streamlined supply chains. How do you deal with very senior engineering types that are very typically, this is the way I've been doing it for all my life? Who are you?
You fire them.
Yeah, you don't do it those guys.
That's I had a when I was doing the MBA, we had a talk about, let's say you have a super innovative technology, and you take it out as an early business, and your scientist, the technology owner, is restricting you from being able to develop that into the commercial space. Your company's gonna die because of that, right? So give it a chance to live, fire that guy, see if you can develop the technology, take what you have from that. That's your only shot, right? Otherwise, your company's just not gonna work. So I'm really firm on this. If the person won't work with the company and commit to the company and what you're trying to do, it's the wrong person, right? And you've seen those books, Good to Great, get the right people on the bus and such. That's the wrong person on the bus, fire them. And give them a chance, but I'm really harsh about this.
I was just wondering if there's a way that anybody's found to actually convince these very dead set people.
Yeah, the next 5 guys aren't so dead set.
Yeah, I have the exact same experience. It blows away our vending when they come on our plant, and the oldest engineers, at 30 years old. And these are the guys that the average age of Boeing is like 55 years old.
As a 51-year-old, I'm not suggesting that we should embrace ageism. But yeah, I have a tech business as well, and we run into that all the time. I do it my way or not, and quite frankly, everyone's replaceable. I'm replaceable, Ken is replaceable, and it's hard to cut the cord, but you have to change vendors, there's just the success level of changing someone's mind
is really, really low. And you only have a certain amount of time to get that working. And as a manager or as a CEO, you owe everybody in that company their livelihood, right? They're all committed to you. And if one person or 1 or 2 people are going to endanger that, you owe a whole company the right management. I'm kind of, I guess I have an answer. Any other questions out there? Are we, oh yeah, go ahead, please.
So what are the differences between manufacturing tech related electronics and
That's a great question.
Yeah, so I would say in the tech side of stuff, you wouldn't believe how cheap electronics are. Dirt cheap. And then your margins can be quite large if you get the right brand and all that. When hard goods, it can be, the margin can be much thin.
I got funded by a VC firm in San Francisco and failed miserably, and I worked with a VC group and other companies they funded. And I find that, so Tile, I don't know if you guys have heard of Tile, like you put it on, so that was one of our VC groups that they funded them. And very, detailed. You put this piece here, you put this widget there. China is a great place, and it's really hard for them to screw that up. If you're a craftsman and you want to burnish edge on something, or you want to hand stitch this particular way, I think that's a different set of problems that we could not solve in some areas of the world. We solve in others where, like, all of our stuff now is made in Mexico because they are incredible craftsmen. So I think it's actually easier to once you know what you're manufacturing, it's way easier to manufacture stuff.
But it can change so quick. So we are developing an electronic circuit board that manages batteries, and we're looking at the initial 20% of the utility out of the battery. And we were working to design, and some brand new cool chip component came along. And we had to scrap a lot of it because we made it so much more efficient that it almost just set us in day one and built
it. So, Ken, did we hit kind of the marks you were hoping?
Fantastic job with the panel. Appreciate everybody coming. Round of applause for. Turn off the live stream if I can make a couple requests. I want us to eat some more Thai food because Thai food's better the first day. Does anybody know what the next event we have coming up is?
Christmas party at your house?
Christmas party at my house, right? So check the invite. It's got the actual date. Rules for the White Elephant gift exchange: no real gifts, right? Only gag stuff. If it's a wearable clothing item, you have to put it on during the party.
Is there a place to get everyone's contact information from this year?
I mean, I don't know in advance who's here right now, but I mean, you could ask everybody for something. Do you have something in particular in mind, or?
Yeah, I just have to go. I was wondering, like, if there's a boundary, like, when, I'm sorry, I just moved back here, so I'm not as connected. Probably.
Make Kendall bring you to the Christmas party.
Okay.
We would like yours before you leave, by the way. We're a shoe manufacturer, so before you skip us.
And maybe one last item, if you don't know about the ecosystem mapping project that we're working on, we kicked it off late yesterday, so it's already started inside of the community. We're essentially building a map of all the entrepreneurs and what the ecosystem looks like. It's kind of a cool gig, and there's lots of ways for you guys to help. I haven't sent you an email specifically because I like you guys a lot. I don't want you to do my test bids. But as soon as the survey process is working smoothly, then you'll all see an email from me saying, hey, make sure that you get to make our community look good. So anyway, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.